My name is Lucas MacRae. I go to Honest Academy. I'm in S6 and I aspire to join the police. So in primary 6 I started having pains in my stomach, which just kept getting worse and worse, which we initially thought was just, your normal cold, your normal fever, but it just wouldn't stop.
I'm Jill MacRae. I'm Lucas's mum. I've been a dietitian for 30 years and 20 of those have been with NHS Highland. He'd always been doing really well with growth, and then it just stopped and his peers were towering above him. And I've got a photo of him going into primary 7 where he's just tiny and thin and white with big dark rings under his eyes. And I think that highlighted to me that I really needed to get more help. So eventually the Aberdeen team were involved and Lucas was sent to Aberdeen for a colonoscopy and an endoscopy. And during that, they discovered that there were changes in the mucosa in his GI tract. And unfortunately, they weren't 100% sure if it was Crohn's or a rare form of cancer. So for a couple of weeks, we had quite a tense time waiting to find out. So we were relieved that it was Crohn's, even though Crohn's in itself was still quite a massive diagnosis for a young boy to have. The first step of treatment was for Lucas to be nil by mouth for, I think it was maybe 8 weeks, and we had 2 lots of that. During that time he had a nasogastric tube in place and I bolus fed him 4 or 5 times a day. That seemed to help a little bit to begin with. There was definitely an improvement. But then it stopped working and we had to move on to the next stage, which was treatment with prednisolone, which is a steroid. That happened just as we went into lockdown. Lucas had to shield and I had to work at home. And unfortunately, all the usual consultants were taken away from supporting people with Crohn's to support the pandemic. There was just a helpline that we had to phone if there was a problem. Lucas took every single side effect that you might expect to see with steroids and he was very ill. He became very weak, he'd faint in the shower, his limbs were sore, it was agonising to walk from his bedroom up to the living room.
In COVID I had to shield, so the best way for me to keep in touch with my friends was through gaming on my Xbox and mainly just over phone call, and yeah, that really helped.
As soon as Aberdeen were able to open up, he was taken up to the children's ward and had an MRI scan and more investigations, and they discovered that his Crohn's had become much worse during lockdown, unfortunately. However, the benefit to that was that he then met the criteria for the biological treatment, and that was a turning point for my son. All of a sudden, he didn't have the same level of pain or gastric upset, nausea and vomiting, and he shot up. He went from being just tiny and frail to being over 6 foot and strong and developing muscles and having stamina, discovering an interest in food again and being able to go back to school.
Life for me now is way better than it was a few years ago. As I'm on the right medication, I've improved my fitness by so much, as I was extremely weak due to the wrong medication and the side effects of it during COVID.
So it's been a very difficult journey, but thanks to modern medication, he's keeping well and hopefully he won't have any of the complications that we used to see with Crohn's. That's my dream anyway.
I want to do Catwalk for a Cause as my mum is massive on fundraising and I aspire to be somewhat like her. She has fundraised lots of money for Bowel Cancer UK and Alzheimer's UK, and my mum originally found Catwalk for a Cause and showed it to me, and I thought it was a great idea to raise some money for an amazing cause and also raise awareness for Crohn's disease.